Hello, this is Haku and today we are going to reading SCP-5097, also known as Working from 9 to 5. We will also be reading a lot of these stories that are in this SCP. I thought the links were just to other SCPs, but looks like no. The links are actually to their own little side stories. And I thought, why not give them a read about after we're done reading the main SCP file. Anyway, if you like this video, please like on the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get right into this. SCP-5097. Anomaly number SCP-5097. Anomaly class. Well, this is an interesting format. Uncontained. Threat level O green. Special containment procedures. In the event SCP-5097 returns to reality, it is to be severely reprimanded and placed in a humanoid containment cell. The note SCP-5097 left behind is currently held in an anomalous items locker. Description: SCP-5097 is Senior Researcher Cassie Kara, a former member of the Unreality Department. Up until their classification as SCP-5097, Dr. Kara had worked under the Foundation for 6 years. Discovery log: SCP-5097 was discovered after Foundation.AIC units detected a sudden loss of data associated with Dr. Kara. The personnel file was the first to be deleted. These detectives missing. The reports of multiple anomalies were found to be blank shortly after, followed by their SCIP, a net account becoming invalid. At 9:58 p.m. on April 9th, 2020. At the same time, several personnel acquainted with Dr. Kara had noticed her lack of activity around the site and could neither access past emails with Dr. Kara nor send them new ones. An investigation was launched, revealing that her private quarters contained only a handwritten note on her desk. See addendum. Whom it was addressed to is unknown. Automated extra normal detection programs deployed by Site Command were able to recognize several residential fluctuations that occurred within Dr. Kara's quarters. Hypothetical measurements used to qualify antidimensions or anti-spacetime phenomena within a given system. Oh, I read that wrong. That's on me. Well, value is closer to 0 will operate similarly to our reality. Oh yeah, that might be what this SCP is. From the readings, a timeline of these fluctuations was established, revealing Dr. Kara separated himself from baseline reality on April 8th at approximately 4:25 a.m. Dr. Kara was designated as SCP-5097 on April 10th, 2020, and its containment procedures were officialized shortly after. Addendum: the note left by SCP-5097. Sorry, but I really just didn't feel like coming into work today. I think we're going to start with this one, because it is the first link. Somnambulent directives. Take the helm. Their co-workers dreamed of the hyper-real, but Cassie was left with paper cuts. Slice went to file on her desk, flirting with the bloody pad of their thumbs before its departure. The paper came to rest on mahogany wood, now with a little more red next to the title. Inbox item number 045T. To Dr. Cassie Carr, Site 17, urgent. They found it easy to hate that paper for so many reasons. In both their dreams and in the waking world, it was the scar that marred their otherwise immaculate office. But dreams were dreams, and work was work. and Cassie was smart enough to separate the two. Unfortunately, inbox item number 045T seemed intent to ignore that firm distinction. Their morning and their nighttime routines were near identical, separated only by their substantiality. In each, they turned the knob on their office door and saw a number or 045T sitting on their mahogany desk just as it had been yesterday. Half the time they cut their thumb on its edge, and they'd wake up feeling frustrated. Their coworkers were visited by hyper butterflies scenting across a glittering cosmos, an occupational hazard of the unreality apartment, but their nighttime reprieve was haunted by visions of the same bloodthirsty paperwork they'd pulled off for a week now. Maybe it carried a mimetic agent that nagged their subconscious as they finally signed on the dotted line. Cassidy wouldn't be surprised. Days at Site 17 seemed to contract around them, spent avoiding the paperwork, which demanded their attention. Nights, meanwhile, stretched each cycle until they felt as though they had spent an eternity in their office, staring at the page beneath them, refusing to offer their signature. It was an endless debate that always ended the same bloody way. Soon the telltale effects of sleep deprivation would begin to manifest. Strange, perhaps, because they slept soundly each night. But Cassidy kept up appearances well enough. Dreams were dreams, and work was work, and they needed to separate the two. One night they opened the office door, as they always did, and was unprepared to find the simulacrum of themselves seated in their office chair, thumbing the corner of the file on their desk. The fake them was composed of cream white documents drawn up in jet black ink, crudely stitched together to form the semblance of a human being, made by some dexterous origami artist who only existed in their head. The paper simulacrum looked up at them as they entered, and extended number 045T toward them. They took the file from its hands and dragged a finger over the dotted line, as though to say, "Sign here, please." The file was in shreds faster than the paper them could blink, dragging deep wounds over Cassie's palms. They grabbed the thing by its neck and pulled it over the desk towards them. "Why are you doing this?" they cried. The simulacrum was silent. Then it peeled off a sheet from its body and handed it to Cassidy. A Theory on Nocturnal Objects by Cassie Ikara, Site 17. It is apparently unlikely that the anomalous does not affect the world of dreamers in equal measure to the world of the waking. Each quirk of narrative and reason within a dream might be indistinguishable from an anomaly, warped and twisted around on the rough weight of some indistinct concern. The realm of the nocturnal is where the deepest fancies and tortures of mankind are made manifest. But what are dreams but a microcosm of their dreaming? If a dream is persistent, urgent, demanding, then surely it is the prerogative of the dreamer to resolve the turmoil of the waking world. Surely they would not allow themselves to be tortured forever. Slice went the file in their hands, and Dr. Cassidy woke up. Their hearts sank as they watched the dull morning light forecast a future. Number 045T was alive, and it wanted blood. What had once been in one paper clone became two, then four, then eight, reproducing behind closed doors and all offering them the same page. Then their desk became paper, then their chair, then the room itself. One night they dreamt they opened their office door and felt the raw crunch of paper where a metal knob should be. The cuts were deep that night. By now, mountains of other paper work were stacked on their desk, flaming the dreaded 045T beneath their height. Their coworkers had begun to notice a change, although they hadn't quite yet pinned down what it could be. Their performance was tanking. They had already received a notice that they and the site director would be having a meeting on Tuesday. It was only one page of paper. Why couldn't they just sign it and move on? Soon the comforts of the office were banished from their dreams, replaced by a field from some distant childhood memory. Blades of grass swapped with piercing stalks of pulpwood, earth supplanted by aggregate heads of manila fillings. On the horizon lumbered a rough piece of black ink in white space, turning a blind head towards them before they ran. Sometimes when they fell and cut their legs, it screamed. For what are tormentors but a microcosm of the tormented? And what is paperwork but a microcosm of its bureaucracy? Then they dreamed of nothing. They were alone, floating in a mute world, greeted only by the sight of the bloody file. They swam through the inky mire, took the document in their hands, and read it for the millionth time again. Inbox item number 045T to Dr. Kasikara, Site 17, urgent. Termination order for SCP redacted via hyperreality scrubbing techniques. Per majority consensus of the Overseer Council, SCP redacted has been slated for decommissioning. This is something that leads to SCP 4456. Due to its extra-dimensional and contraperceptual properties, the most expedient method of neutralization is total scrub of its identity across baseline reality and baseline temporality. The ethics committee has ruled that SCP-Redacted's nature as a sapient human adjacent anomaly is irrelevant to its containment efficacy, as is its decided opposition to termination. The Finances Department has estimated that non-lethal neutralization of SCP-Redacted's effects, while feasible, would be considerably more expensive than a scrub of baseline reality and is therefore ill-advised. Data redacted further information is not necessary to include. Due to the nature of this procedure, consent by representation of the Unreality Department is required. We expect a reply in a timely manner. Please sign here. 1,000 paper men whispered it in their ear. A metal dark cried out for the signage, flanked by a blind titan of inevitability. A hand reached from the inky void and extended its padded thumb forward. Cassidy held a knife tipped with fountain ink. One stroke and someone else's hand would be the chopping block. The paper cuts and the paperwork thrown out together with their signature, they could dream of cosmic butterflies again. And all they had to do was sign SCP Redacted's death warrant. The pen hung over the paper and Cassie made up their mind. Slowly they scribbled out SCP Redacted and wrote in the margins, Dr. Cassidy Kara, Site 17. Then they finally signed the paper. Item box number 045T fell to the ground. Inbox item, sorry. Its purpose satisfied. The signature was meaningless, just spirals of ink on paper, but the termination order overflowed with absolute force of will, warping and twisting around the space Dr. Carr had once occupied. At 4:25 a.m., a request for a personnel file retrieved only an A44 error. Similarly, a virtual black hole appeared where their social media should have been, and several documents found in the archives of the Unreality Department spontaneously imploded. A later search would find their office cluttered by incomplete paperwork, but marked with an empty rectangle in the space on their desk where a termination order should have been. It's almost as though they had never existed. Beyond the reach of time and space, Cassie slept and dreamt of something new. This leads us back to the main SCP file. 1597. The next link is actually this one. Heavy content warning. This is a warning for the viewer. This entry contains suicide, suicidal ideation, and self-harm. I'd say give it maybe 10 minutes and you can resume if you don't want to run into these subjects. This has been your warning. If you're not comfortable with these subjects, please click off the video now. Anyway, to those of you who are fine with this, we will continue. Despite it all, I'm not strong. They continued to toil over the sentence on the paper. Cassie looked over to their wife. Rosa, who was asleep in their bed just to their left. They put their head in their hands as they continued to look over the notebook. They had always been troubled with something since they were a kid, and they couldn't help but feel as though they had become a burden on the people who actually cared about them. Invites left on the table or in the mailbox, everyone left unread, no matter what they needed. Close family, close friends, family, Rosa. Nothing more than cut ties and burnt bridges now. Everything just seemed to fall through for them, slip through the cracks, to never return. It was like they tried to isolate themselves. It just gradually happened. I'm sorry, Rosa. Everything they were told they could be, would be, should be, was a lie. Sweet, kind, talented, hard worker, risk taker. They were none of those things. All a lie they had put on for everyone, something they knew they never could live up to. They had always struggled with these letters, even before this. They started thinking again. They want to make this meaningful for Rosa. Tears started to run down their face as they sobbed quietly. They really didn't want to wake up their wife. She absolutely couldn't know what was going on. She had been so understanding, always there for Cassidy, staying awake with them during times of insomnia, or holding them when and they sobbed uncontrollably for no reason. She would feel betrayed, as though they didn't love her anymore, like it was her fault. This wasn't true. Cassie would do anything for Rosa, and genuinely hoped she knew that, though they weren't sure she would after this. Rosemary, you know that I would run through fire for you. I would carry you through hell and walk the seven seas. After everything we've been through, I never wanted to spend another day without you. No, Cassie tore out the pieces of the notebook paper and tossed it into the trash. Nothing would make what they were going to do any easier. Rosa would never forget of them, even if they failed. Cassie shook their head. Would it just be better to disappear without a trace? Rosa might be able to move on faster if they did. Nothing would make this better for Rosa, and Cassie knew that. They knew that Rosa loved them more than anything else in the world. To be fair, Rosa was the light of Cassie's life. The entire 9 years they had spent with this woman were some of the best in their life. Even if that wasn't enough to stop them, they knew that Rosa's PTSD would come back with a vengeance after they did it. This should have tucked them out of it by now. That thought terrified them. Teardrops littered the page, seeping through the layers of paper. Cassie looked at the time, 4:32 a.m. They looked back over at their sleeping wife. Her auburn hair glistened in the moonlight. She was always so beautiful, even in her sleep. Despite it all, Cassie really did love their wife. No, no, Cassie was stalling. Rosa, I love you. You are the light of my... The things that Cassie could write would always sound either cheesy and stupid or too deep into wedding vow territory for them. They sighed and tapped the pencil on their chin. Every breath they took strained their body. It was a sickening feeling in their stomach, and a heavy ache in her chest. This wasn't an uncommon occurrence for Cassidy. Small thoughts slipped into their mind. Rosa didn't love them. She just felt obligated to stay with them. That their relationship was just based off of obligation rather than love. A sharp, bitter ping rang in their chests. It wasn't true. Nothing they had started to tell themselves was true. They had to believe it wasn't, unless it was. I'll be back soon, my love. That would have to do. Short, sweet, and a possible light for her to hold on to. Maybe they had just gone for a midnight jog and got lost, or went to the store and hadn't come back. Everything in their life had been amazing. Their relationship was perfect. Their job was steady, and even a promotion was on the table. So why were they being like this? Cassie hadn't wanted it to hurt anyone, and yet they continued to push everyone away. It all just melted into apathy, as though nothing they ever did mattered to anyone. Their body felt like it was going to give out under them, almost as though it wasn't even theirs. A bystander, watching as someone else did everything as them. They sighed and started sobbing a little more. They had stopped taking their medication. If it wasn't going to work, then why even bother? They sealed the note with a kiss and slipped out of the bedroom. Their body was shaking under the mental stress of their choice to finally go through with it. Rosa was better off without them. They knew how much it worried her when they slept for hours on end, or took a nap and wouldn't wake up until the morning, or all those sleepless nights. Even if Rosa did love them, it wasn't fair to be a burden on her. Besides, Rosa needed her sleep now that she wasn't plagued by constant nightmares of days past, and Cassidy couldn't wake her up. Cassidy slipped into the living room and opened a drawer. Inside was a pair of scissors they had hid. They stared at them for a second, glancing between their bare yet scarred arms and a pair of scissors. It wasn't worth it if they were going to die anyways. They tossed the silver blades across the room. They felt sick to their stomach, like something was pulling them back. They just ignored the feeling and opened the door to the apartment. A cold wind hit them as they walked down the stairs and into the parking garage. It was dark, but they could still see well enough to find their car. The concrete felt like needles on their shoeless feet, but they only relished in the pain of it. They drew a breath before unlocking the car and sitting down. Tears still dripped off their face, and they let out an anguished scream, one that hurt their throat and reverberated around the garage. The only return was the echo of their faded scream. Tired eyes rested on the garage door as their heart thumped loud in their ears and chests. This adrenaline scarred them, but they experienced it before and shoved it off. To them, it didn't matter anymore. Cassidy had tunnel vision. It didn't matter that tears clouded their vision, or that Rosa would miss them, or if they got hurt. It only mattered that Cassidy succeeded. They knew they could have caught themselves before their oh, they knew everything could have turned out alright, and they knew all of this could have been avoided. All of this because Cassie had let self-destruction thrive. After all, it was all they were good for. Jeez. Gotta check what this thing was because I can't remember. No, we just read that. Without you. Rosa woke from her sleep in a cold sweat. Her breath hitched and her eyes widened as she struggled to find her phone. Tears welled in her eyes as she curled into a ball, clutching her knees. Her heart pounded in her aching chest, leaving her feeling weak. The spot next to her was cold and messy, untouched since Cassie had disappeared 2 days ago. Shivers ran down Rosa's spine as she pulled one of Cassie's pillows to her. It smelled like them. Time was slow for Rosa, ever since she found the note that now haunted her dreams. Rosa wasn't an idiot. She knew that there was little hope of her spouse coming back. But every time her mind had run into that topic, it sent a heavy ache through her body, one she couldn't shake off anymore. Pins and needles pricked her hands and feet, fingers and toes felt like curling into themselves. Rosa sobbed, continuing to clutch the pillow to her body. Everything had seemed so perfect, like nothing could go wrong. Yet the unthinkable happened. Rosa would give anything to go back and just hold Cassie a little bit longer. Memories of giggling after dark and cuddling filled Rosa's mind. This was a different, sickening worry. Not like when Cassie had been gone for a few days. No, this was a frozen hole. She likened it to the Greek myth of soulmates. How humans were destined to search for their other half in vain. Rosa had found her other half, hadn't she? Where did they go? She sighed, calm slowly drifting over her body. Rosa slowly let go of the pillow, tears still streaming down her face. She flopped onto her back, taking in a heavy breath. She closed her eyes for a second. When they opened, they rested on a framed picture of their wedding day. They traced Cassidy's face. A silence drifted through the room. Rosa wiped her cheeks and stopped crying. She was so calm. Her body felt limp, and her head felt empty. Her eyes kept tracing Cassie's face as she stared at the photo. She held her breath. The lack of oxygen stung her lungs. The breath broke the still air, and her lips curled into a wide smile. Giggles pierced the silence. Rosa stood up and grabbed the photo, smashing it against a wall with a crunch of glass. Tears once again spit out of her eyes. Fuck you! Fuck you! She screamed, continuing to slam the frame into the wall. This was my happy ending! This was mine! She let out an anguished howl as she tossed the dark wooden frame to the ground. Her throat stung as she kept screaming into the apartment. The shattered glass stuck to her feet as she walked over it. She caught her reflection descending a mirror, her skin pale, eyes dull with no light. Rosa's face was into an angry grimace as she pulled back her arm, launching it into the pristine surface. The shards of the broken mirror impaled themselves into her hand. Her eyes contrasted with her face, soft and sad against malice and contempt. She screamed incoherent words as she ripped open the door to the bathroom. She tore into the drawers and cabinets. She wiped the counter clean of any objects. The crashing and shattering sounds only served to fuel the rage Rosa felt. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. All you ever do is take from me. All you do is lure me in with false happiness. Rosa walked over the mess of things on the floor. She didn't have regard for her own existence. If the world was going to screw her around like this, why bother with life in the first place? She ran her head into a wall, producing a loud crack sound and blurring her vision for a second. She didn't know if the sound came from her skull or the wall, but she didn't care. Her breath ran over her vocal cords as she grunted. Rosa blinked, looking for anything else to destroy. She felt so guilty, angry, and tired. Nothing mattered anymore. Her love was gone, and nothing could fix that. She looked at the stuff on the dresser. None of it mattered. Rage bubbled up inside of her again. It was so perfect. It didn't deserve to look like that. It couldn't be happy if she wasn't happy. She slammed her body into it, tagging to the drawers as she threw shirts and pants across the room. When nothing was in them, she broke the wooden drawers and tossed the parts over her shoulder. She couldn't keep up like this. Her body was giving out. It all hurt so badly. She couldn't, and she couldn't stand to feel its emptiness. The world was empty and she didn't matter to anyone. The phone buzzed on the bed and Rosa went to grab it. The message only read, "No dice." And she knew it was true. There wasn't a body, no documents in SCEIP.net, and almost nothing left of Cassidy. They weren't just missing, they were gone. Their presence had left the universe and wouldn't return. She slid against the bed, glass shards making way for her body as she sobbed. All of the anger and rage had subsided, only to be replaced with grief. Her head pounded in time with her heart, and her throat felt shot. She leaned her head against the bed frame, tears sliding down her face, hands aimlessly wandering the carpet, her fingertips brushing across the picture frame. She picked it up, looking at the damage she had done to it. Large glass shards hung off the dark ebony wood. Rosa sighed and put her focus on the picture. That was the happiest day of their lives, meant to be the happily ever after she deserved. The one final chapter in her life to live out the rest of her days in bliss. Yet it was all ripped away in a second. Rosa knew no one was to blame for Cassie's disappearance. Not a kidnapper or murderer, anyway. I'm so sorry. Rosa's tears dripped into the exposed picture as she held it close to her, hugging it like it was the only thing that was left in the world. Well, that got really sad at the end. Anyway, if you liked this video, please like on the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next time, so until then, goodbye.